Captain Lee Min-ho stood on the bridge of the Harmony's edge, watching the stars through the massive viewing window. His ship was 3 days out from Earth when the emergency signal came through. The message was weak and broken, but the words were clear enough to make his blood run cold. This is New Haven Colony. We are under attack. They are killing everyone. Please help us. Please remember us. Then silence. Min-ho had been a ship captain for 15 years. He had seen pirates, solar storms, and equipment failures that could kill a crew in minutes. But something about this message was different. The voice belonged to Sarah Kim, the colony's communication officer. He had met her once during a supply run. She was young, maybe 25, with bright eyes and dreams of starting a family on New Haven. "Commander Park, set course for New Haven immediately," Min-ho ordered. "Maximum speed, Commander Park." Jisoo looked up from her station. "Sir, that would take us 4 days at full burn. Our engines weren't designed for that kind of stress." "I don't care about the engines. 50,000 people live on New Haven. We're going." The next 4 days felt like 4 years. Min-ho barely slept. He kept thinking about New Haven Colony. It was one of the newer settlements, built on a planet with rich soil and clean water. Families had moved there to start fresh lives. Children played in the fields while their parents grew food that would feed half the outer colonies. Dr. Kim Yuna spent those 4 days running every scan she could think of. She was the ship's science officer, a small woman with quick hands and a sharp mind. "Captain, I'm not picking up any distress beacons. No emergency signals at all. What about life signs?" "Nothing. But we're still too far out to get clear readings." When they finally reached New Haven's system, Min-ho knew something was terribly wrong. The planet looked different from space. Where green farmlands should have been, there were only gray and black marks across the surface. "Take us into orbit," Min-ho said quietly. What they found below made the entire bridge crew fall silent. New Haven Colony was gone. Not damaged, not partially destroyed. Gone. The buildings had been reduced to melted metal and ash. The farms were burned fields of black earth. Even the trees had been cut down and burned. "Launch the landing shuttles," Min-ho ordered. "Okay." Full investigation teams. Park Jisoo grabbed his arm. "Okay. Sir, what if whoever did this is still down there? Then we'll deal with them. Those people were under Earth's protection. We owe them answers." Landing team found the first bodies near what used to be the main settlement. They had been lined up in rows and shot. Men, women, children, elderly people. Okay? All of them executed with military precision. Dr. Kim Yuna knelt beside one of the bodies, her scanner beeping quietly. "Captain, these aren't normal weapon burns. The energy signature is completely unknown. It's not human technology, not any of the known alien races we trade with." They found more bodies at the school. The children had been gathered in the playground. Someone had made them watch while there. Parents were killed in front of them. Then they were killed too. Min-ho had to step away and vomit behind a burned-out building. The investigation team worked for 6 hours, mapping the destruction and cataloging the dead. What they found painted a picture that none of them wanted to believe. This wasn't a battle, Park Jisoo reported over the radio. This was systematic murder. Whoever did this took their time. They wanted these people to suffer. The worst discovery came when they found the colony's communication center. The equipment had been destroyed, but Dr. Kim Yuna managed to recover some data from the backup systems. "Captain, you need to see this." The recording showed the final hours of New Haven Colony. The attackers came from space in ships that looked like nothing in human databases. They were large, angular vessels that moved with deadly purpose. The aliens who came out of those ships were tall and thin, with gray skin and black eyes. They wore armor that seemed to absorb light, but it wasn't their appearance that made the recording so. It's terrible to watch. It was how organized they were. The aliens didn't just attack randomly. They had a plan. First, they destroyed all communication equipment so no one could call for help. Then they rounded up all the adults and separated them from the children. They executed the adults first, making the children watch. Finally, they killed the children. But they didn't stop there. The aliens had recording equipment of their own. They filmed everything they did, every execution, every scream, every moment of terror. Then they broadcast it all across subspace frequencies. It tanked. Wanted other people to see this, Dr. Kim Yuna said, her voice shaking. This wasn't just murder. This was a message. Minho watched the recording 3 times before he could speak. What kind of message? A warning? This final transmission they sent. The recording switched to show one of the tall aliens speaking directly into the camera. When it spoke, translation software converted its words into human language. This colony served as an example to all human settlements. Your species spreads too quickly across the galaxy. You take planets that belong to older, wiser races. You breed without control and consume resources that should last for thousands of years. The Hegemony Council has decided that humanity is a plague that must be stopped before it grows too large. Surrender your outer colonies and accept population controls, or all human settlements will share this fate. You have been warned. The bridge fell silent for a long moment. Sir, Park Jisoo said carefully, this wasn't just an attack on New Haven. They're threatening all human colonies. Give me a connection to Earth immediately, Minho ordered. Priority 1 emergency channel. They waited for the communication link. More reports came in from across human space. The settlement on Kepler 4 to be had stopped responding to messages. The mining colony at Wolf 359 was 3 days overdue for their weekly check-in. The research station at Proxima Centauri had missed their scheduled supply pickup. Captain, the communications officer called out, I'm getting scattered reports from across the outer rim. At least 12 colonies have gone silent in the past 2 weeks. Minho stared out at the burned remains of New Haven colony below them. 50,000 people had lived here just a week ago. Now there was nothing but ash and silence. Set course for Earth, he said finally. Maximum burn. The government needs to know what we're dealing with. As the Harmony's Edge turned away from New Haven, Dr. Kim Yuna made one final discovery. Hidden in the colony's geological survey data was something the aliens had missed. New Haven's scanners had detected the alien ships 3 days before the attack. The colonists had tried to evacuate, but they had nowhere to go. The aliens had hunted them down anyway. Captain, she said quietly, they didn't just kill these people, they enjoyed it. The emergency session at Earth's Global Defense Council had been going for 6 hours. Around the massive circular table sat the most powerful people in human space. President Nam Soyang looked tired as she listened to Admiral Choi Hoon-woo give his report. The situation is worse than we initially thought, the Admiral said, his voice heavy. We now have confirmation that 17 human colonies have been completely destroyed. That's over 200,000 people dead. A room fell. Silent. President Nam rubbed her temples, trying to process the numbers. 200,000 people. Entire communities wiped out in less than 3 weeks. What do we know about these attackers? She asked. Admiral Choi activated the holographic display in the center of the table. Images from New Haven Colony appeared, showing the systematic destruction Captain Lee Minho had discovered. They call themselves the Hegemony Council. According to our xenobiology experts, they're a coalition of older alien races who see younger species as threats. They believe humans expand too quickly and take resources that belong to them. Defense Minister Yoon Dae-yeon leaned forward. Have they made any demands? Yes, they want us to abandon all colonies beyond the Sol system. They also want us to accept what they call population controls. Basically, they want to limit how many children humans can have, and if we refuse. Admiral Choi's expression grew darker. Total extinction. They've made it clear this isn't a negotiation, but they see humanity as a plague that needs to be eliminated. President Nam stood up and walked to the large window overlooking Geneva. Below, normal life continued. People walked to work, children played in parks, couples shared meals at outdoor cafes. None of them knew that their entire species was under fire. A species was under a death sentence. What about diplomatic contact? She asked. Has anyone tried to talk to them? Foreign Minister Jung Tae-yong cleared his throat. I attempted to establish communication yesterday. I sent messages through every diplomatic channel we have. I even reached out to the Galactic Trade Council to act as mediators. What happened? Jung Tae-yong activated his personal tablet and projected a video onto the main screen. Okay. It showed him in the Diplomatic Communication Center, speaking calmly into the camera. Okay. To the leadership of the Hegemony Council, Daeum Jung Tae-yong, speaking on behalf of all humanity. We wish to open peaceful negotiations to resolve this conflict. We believe that all intelligent species can coexist in this galaxy if we work together. The video showed him waiting for a response. When it came, the blood drained from his face. The alien response was not words. It was a live broadcast from the mining colony at Kepler-4 for it to be. The video showed human prisoners, miners, and their families being forced to kneel in rows. There were thousands of them, including children as young as 5 years old. An alien voice spoke over the images. Humanity speaks of peace, while your species spreads like a virus across our galaxy. Here is our response to your diplomatic words. What followed was 10 minutes of systematic execution. The aliens didn't just kill the prisoners quickly, okay? They made each death slow and painful. They made the children watch their parents die, okay? Made the parents watch their children die, okay? They recorded every scream, every plea for mercy, every moment of terror. When it was over, 10,000 humans were dead. The communication room fell silent as Jung Tae-yong turned off the recording. They sent this to every government on Earth, he said quietly. They also broadcast it to every human colony still in contact with us. The message was clear. They don't want to negotiate, okay? They want us to be afraid. President Nam felt something cold settle in her stomach. She had been in politics for 20 years. She had dealt with terrorists, dictators, and madmen. But this was different. This was an entire coalition of alien races that had decided humanity needed to die. Ma'am, Admiral Choi said, there's more. Our deep space monitoring stations picked up another transmission this morning. He activated a new recording. This one showed a massive alien fleet moving through space. There were hundreds of ships, all heading toward human territory. According to our analysis, this fleet is moving toward the civilian transport New Seoul. That ship is carrying 30,000 refugees from the outer colonies. Families fleeing the attacks. How long until they reach the transport? 6 hours, President. Nam felt the weight of the decision pressing down on her. The New Seoul was a civilian ship. It had no weapons, no defenses. It was carrying families with children, elderly people, pregnant women, people who had already lost everything and were looking for safety. Can we get military ships there in time? No, ma'am. Our nearest fleet is 12 hours away. The room fell silent again. Everyone knew what was going to happen. The aliens would capture the New Seoul and broadcast another massacre to terrorize the remaining human colonies. There has to be something we can do, President Nam said. We could try to contact them again, Jung Tae-yong suggested. Offered them something. Maybe we can negotiate for the lives of those refugees. Admiral Choi shook his head. Ma'am, I don't think they want to negotiate. I think They want us to suffer. This isn't about territory or resources. This is about showing the galaxy what happens when you cross the hegemony. 6 hours later, the next broadcast arrived. The aliens had indeed captured the new soul, but they didn't kill the passengers quickly like they had done at the colonies. Instead, they spent for hours torturing them. They separated families and made them watch each other die. They broadcast every moment of it across all human communication channels. 30,000 people died screaming while the entire human race was forced to watch. When it was over, the alien commander appeared on screen one final time. This is what happens to species that refuse to accept their place in the galaxy. Humanity has been judged and found guilty of expansion without permission. Your sentence is extinction. You have 7 days to evacuate all colonies beyond your home system. After that, we'll begin the final cleansing. The transmission ended, leaving the council chamber in complete silence. President Nam stared at the blank screen for a long moment. When she finally spoke, her voice was different, colder. Akala, Admiral Choi, I want you to activate Protocol 0. Every person in the room turned to stare at her. Protocol 0 was a theoretical military doctrine that had never been used. It meant the complete suspension of all rules of war, all humanitarian restrictions, all limits on military action. Ma'am, Admiral Choi said carefully, Protocol 0 means we abandon the Geneva Conventions. We stop following the rules of civilized warfare. Good, ma'am. Once we cross that line, there's no going back. We'll become something different, something the galaxy has never seen before. President Nam stood up and looked around the table at each person in the room. The hegemony wanted to see what humans become when we stop being civilized. They wanted to show the galaxy what happens when you cross them. Fine. Now they're going to learn what happens when you try to extinct us. She turned to the communication panel and opened a channel to the Galactic Council. This is President Nam Soyang of Earth. We have received the hegemony's ultimatum. Here is our response. Any species that participates in genocide against humanity will face complete retaliation. We will not follow your rules anymore. We will not show mercy anymore. We will not be civilized anymore. You wanted to see what humans become when we stop pretending to be something we're not. Now you will learn. The transmission ended, and humanity prepared for war. General Bejawan stood in the war room deep beneath the Swiss mountains. Around him, dozens of screens showed the location of every human ship, every remaining colony, and every known hegemony fleet. For the first time in his 30-year military career, he had been given unlimited authority to wage war. Show me what we have, he said to his staff. Colonel An Ji-hoon stepped forward. He was young for his rank, only 35, but he had earned his position through brilliant tactical thinking. Sir, we have 47 military vessels ready for immediate deployment, another 100 civilian ships that can be converted to military use within a week. Against how many enemy ships? Intelligence estimates put the hegemony fleet at over 3,000 vessels. The numbers were terrible. Humanity was outnumbered 60 to 1. In normal warfare, it would be suicide to engage such odds. But this was no longer normal warfare. What about the special projects? General Bay asked. Dr. Lim Hound, the head of military research, activated a secure holographic display. She was a thin woman with gray hair and tired eyes. For 20 years, she had worked on weapons that the government had deemed too dangerous to build. Protocol 0 has given us authorization to deploy everything, she said. Project Ghost, Project Swarm, and Project Rewrite are all ready. Explain them. Dr. Lim touched the display, and images of horrifying weapons appeared. Project Ghost creates AI constructs based on the brain patterns of dead humans. We can take the memories and personalities of people killed by the hegemony and turn them into digital weapons. These ghosts can invade alien computer systems and drive their operators insane. General Bay nodded. Continue. Project Swarm involves self-replicating nanobots that can consume any material and turn it into more nanobots. A single deployment can turn an entire enemy fleet into expanding clouds of microscopic machines. And Project Rewrite. Dr. Lim hesitated. That one targets alien biology directly. We've studied DNA samples from every known species in the galaxy. Project Rewrite uses quantum viruses to rewrite alien genetic code. We can make their own bodies turn against them. The room fell silent. These weren't weapons of war. They were weapons of extinction. Colonel Lan said carefully, using these weapons will make us just as bad as the hegemony. General Bay turned to look at him. Colonel, the hegemony has already decided that humanity deserves to die. They've killed over 200,000 of our people, including children. They broadcast torture sessions for entertainment. They want to extinct our entire species. He paused. We're not becoming as bad as them. We're becoming worse, and that's exactly what they've earned. The first target was the hegemony cleansing fleet at the Vega system. Intelligence showed that this fleet was responsible for destroying 6 human colonies. It consisted of 200 alien ships commanded by Fleet Commander Zulak. One of the hegemony's most experienced leaders, Captain on Ji-Hoon, led the human assault with only 12 ships. The hegemony fleet outnumbered them 17-1. But Captain On wasn't planning a traditional battle. Deploy Project Ghost, he ordered. The first wave of attack wasn't weapons fire. It was information. Human ships began broadcasting on all hegemony frequencies. But these weren't normal military communications. They were personal files, complete dossiers on every alien in the enemy fleet. The broadcasts included the full names of every crew member, their family histories, their home addresses, their children's names, their fears, their dreams, their personal secrets. Humans had been studying the hegemony for months, compiling detailed intelligence on their society. On the bridge of the hegemony flagship, Fleet Commander Zulak watched in horror as his personal information appeared on his own screens. The humans knew where his mate lived. They knew his offspring's names. They knew about his secret fear of deep water and his shame about failing military academy twice before passing. How did they know these things? He demanded. The answer came in the form of a direct communication from Captain An. When the alien commander appeared on screen, Captain An smiled coldly. Commander Zulak, we know you're wondering how we learned so much about you and your crew. The answer is simple. While you were busy killing our civilians, we were busy learning everything about yours. Behind Captain An, screens showed detailed maps of hegemony home worlds, pictures of alien families, and files containing decades of intercepted communications. You wanted to terrorize us by killing our people and broadcasting their deaths. Now we're going to show you what real terror looks like. The human ships didn't just attack the hegemony fleet. They personalized every single shot. When they destroyed an alien vessel, they announced the names of everyone on board. They described their families, their homes, their personal histories. They made each death individual and specific. The ship we just destroyed belonged to Sub-Commander Kelox. He has 3 offspring who attend the Rigel Academy. His mate works as a medical researcher. He enjoys writing poetry about nebulae and has a pet creature called a spiral wing. He was 47 years old when we killed him. The psychological effect was devastating. The aliens weren't fighting faceless humans anymore. They were fighting an enemy that knew everything about them, that had studied them like insects, that could reach into their personal lives and destroy everything they cared about. But the worst part came when the humans deployed Project Ghost. Digital copies of murdered human colonists began appearing on alien screens. These weren't recordings. They were interactive AI constructs with the full memories and personalities of the dead humans. A young girl who had died at New Haven Colony appeared on Commander Zulek's personal display. She looked exactly as she had in life, but her eyes were filled with cold hatred. "Hello, Commander Zulak. My name was Mina Park. I was 7 years old when your soldiers killed me. They made me watch while they tortured my parents. Then they shot me in the head. But I'm not gone. I'm in your systems. Now, I'm in your computers, your weapons, your life support, okay? And I'm going to make sure you suffer the way my family suffered." Cool. Similar ghosts appeared throughout the alien fleet. Cool. Dead humans materialized in private quarters, in command centers, in engineering sections. They spoke in perfect alien languages, reciting the names of every person the hegemony had murdered. The aliens tried to shut down their systems, but the ghosts adapted faster than they could respond. The AI constructs learned from every attempt to remove them, becoming more sophisticated and more terrifying. Within 6 hours, half the hegemony fleet had surrendered, not because they were militarily defeated, but because their crews were having mental breakdowns. The constant presence of the human ghosts, combined with the knowledge that their enemy knew everything about their personal lives, drove many aliens to insanity. Commander Zulak sent a desperate message to Hegemony High Command. The humans have become something inhuman. They don't fight like any species we've encountered. They've turned warfare into a form of psychological torture. We need immediate reinforcements and new tactics. The response from High Command was brief. Continue the mission. Humanity must be eliminated. But Captain On intercepted that communication too. His response was broadcast across all hegemony frequencies. "High Command, this is Captain On Ji-hoon of the human fleet. We heard your message. You want to continue trying to extinct us? Good. That means we can continue showing you what we've learned from studying your species for decades." He paused, and when he continued, his voice was completely emotionless. "We know where every one of your home worlds is located. We know where your leaders' families live. We know where your children go to school. We've been watching you, learning about you, preparing for this day. You wanted to see what humans become when we stop being civilized. Congratulations. You're about to find out." The transmission ended, and the real war began. 3 months after the first human victory at Vega, the war had spread across half the galaxy. The hegemony's confident predictions of quick human extinction had turned into desperate calls for reinforcements. But humanity was no longer interested. In proportional responses, Colonel Seo Mingyu stood on the observation deck of the human warship Retribution, watching the planet Corlax burn below. 2 weeks ago, Corlax had been home to 15 million hegemony civilians. It was a dying world covered in gray clouds and empty cities. "Status report," he said into his communicator. "Biological deployment was successful, sir," came the reply from Dr. Kung Huna, the mission's science officer. "The modified plague has reached 97% of the population. Complete planetary sterilization should occur within 6 days. Seo Mingyu nodded. 6 months ago, he would have been horrified by these words. 6 months ago, he had been a regular infantry colonel who followed the rules of war, protected civilians, respected surrender, and tried to minimize casualties. That was before the hegemony killed his wife and daughter on the research station at Proxima Centauri. Now, Colonel Seo was part of something called the Reaper Corps. They were human soldiers who had volunteered for a special procedure. Military surgeons had removed parts of their brains that controlled empathy and guilt. What remained were highly intelligent, completely ruthless killers who could order the death of entire worlds without feeling anything. "Sir," his communications officer called out, "we're receiving a surrender offer from the Corlex government." "Hell, then we don't accept surrenders anymore." The communications officer looked uncomfortable. "Sir, there are children down there. Millions of them." Seo Mingyu turned to look at the young officer. Lieutenant, the hegemony made the rules of this war when they decided to kill human children for entertainment. They wanted total extinction. We're simply better at it than they are. The truth was that humanity had abandoned all pretense of civilized warfare. When the hegemony destroyed one human colony, humans responded by sterilizing 3 alien worlds. But they didn't use quick, clean weapons. They used biological agents designed to cause maximum suffering over extended periods. The plague-consuming Corlex was one of Dr. Lim Hyun's creations. It didn't kill quickly. Instead, it slowly shut down the nervous system over several weeks. The victims remained conscious and aware while their bodies failed, piece by piece. They could think and feel everything, but they couldn't move or speak. They could only lie still and wait to die. The psychological warfare had evolved too. Commander Yoon Sulji led the Ghost Division, a unit that specialized in digital haunting. They had perfected the art of inserting human AI constructs into alien computer networks. On her ship, the Vengeance, Commander Yoon watched as her latest creation terrorized the hegemony. Home world of Zentari Prime. The Ghost was based on Captain Sarah Kim, the young communications officer who had sent the final distress call from New Haven Colony. The AI Sarah appeared on every screen across Zentari Prime. She materialized in government buildings, private homes, schools, and hospitals. She spoke in the local alien language, but her message was always the same. My name is Sarah Kim. I was 25 years old when you killed me. I had dreams of starting a family. I wanted to grow flowers in my garden and watch my children play. Your soldiers took that away from me. Now I'm going to take everything away from you. The AI Sarah didn't just appear on screens. She took control of transportation systems, causing accidents. She manipulated medical equipment in hospitals, turning healing machines into instruments of torture. She accessed personal files and broadcast the embarrassing secrets of government officials across the planet. But her cruelest trick was infiltrating the alien communication networks and calling the families of hegemony soldiers. She would appear on their personal devices and tell them exactly how their loved ones had died in battle against humans. She described every wound, every moment of pain, every final thought. Your mate died screaming my name, she would tell grieving alien families. He begged for mercy, but we don't show mercy anymore. You taught us that mercy is weakness. The psychological impact was devastating. Entire alien populations were developing what human psychologists call ghost syndrome. They became afraid to use any technology because they never knew when a dead human would appear to torment them. The worst part was that the ghosts were learning. Each AI construct absorbed information from every system it invaded. They were becoming smarter, more creative, and more cruel. Some had begun creating new ghosts based on aliens they had killed, turning the enemy's own dead against them. The hegemony tried to fight back, but their traditional military tactics were useless against an enemy that ignored all rules. When they captured human soldiers, they expected to use them for prisoner exchanges or information gathering. Instead, the humans had been programmed to release biological weapons when captured, turning themselves into walking plague bombs. When the hegemony targeted human civilian populations, they found that humanity had moved all non-combatants to heavily defended core worlds. The remaining humans in contested space were all volunteers who had been enhanced with combat drugs and suicide devices. The aliens discovered that humans were willing to sacrifice anything and anyone to win this war. Parents volunteered their children for dangerous missions. Scientists tested deadly weapons on themselves. Entire human colonies chose to destroy themselves rather than be captured. It's taken as many aliens with them as possible. 3 months into the unleashed war, Hegemony High Command sent a desperate message to Earth. The transmission was intercepted by human intelligence and broadcast across all human ships. To the leadership of Earth, This war has gone beyond all acceptable limits. Both our species are being destroyed by this conflict. We propose an immediate ceasefire and peace negotiations. The hegemony is willing to withdraw from all human territory and pay reparations for the colonies we destroyed. President Nam Soyang's response was delivered by General Bai Jawine. He appeared on every screen in hegemony space, his face completely emotionless. High Command, your message has been received and rejected. You declared this a war of extinction. We accepted your terms. There will be no ceasefire, no negotiations, no mercy. You wanted to see what humans become when we stop being civilized. This is your answer. Behind him, displays showed the current status of the war. 47 hegemony worlds had been completely sterilized. Their populations were dead or dying. Another 100 worlds were under biological attack. The hegemony's military had been reduced from 3,000 ships to less than 800. You have 72 hours to evacuate all hegemony personnel from the following star systems. General Bai continued as a list of coordinates appeared on screen. After that, we will begin Phase 2 of our response. Phase 2 involves weapons that make our current methods look merciful by comparison. The transmission ended, leaving the galaxy's other species in stunned silence. The war between humans and the hegemony was no longer a conflict between two civilizations. It had become a demonstration of what happened when one species pushed humanity beyond the point of forgiveness. In the depths of space, Dr. Lim Houn worked on her most terrible creation yet. Phase 2 weapons that wouldn't just kill the hegemony. They would erase every trace that the hegemony had ever existed, wiping them from history itself. Humanity had learned that when someone tries to extinct your species, the only acceptable response is to make them wish they had never been born. 6 months after the genocide began, President Nam Soyang stood in what used to be the hegemony's Capitol building on Centauri Prime. The massive structure was mostly empty now. Most of the aliens were dead, and the few survivors had fled too. The outer edges of the galaxy, through the tall windows, she could see the ruins of what had once been a proud alien city. The buildings still stood, but they were empty shells. No lights flickered in the windows. No vehicles moved through the streets. The only sounds were the wind and the distant hum of human patrol drones. "Ma'am," Admiral Choi Hyun-woo said as he entered the room, "the final count is complete." President Nam turned away from the window. How many? The original hegemony population of 47 billion across 133 worlds. Approximately 50,000 survive. They're scattered across remote systems with minimal technology. Our analysis suggests they'll be extinct within a generation due to genetic bottlenecking and resource limitations. The numbers should have meant something. 47 billion. Dead. An entire civilization reduced to scattered refugees. But President Nam felt nothing. The part of her that would have been horrified by genocide had died when she watched the torture broadcasts from the New Seoul. What about their military? Completely destroyed. We captured the last hegemony command ship 3 days ago. Its fleet. Admiral Zutok committed suicide rather than surrender. Hay's final message was a confession that the hegemony had miscalculated humanity's response. President Nam nodded. The hegemony had expected humans to fight like other species. They had expected proportional responses, rules of engagement, and eventual negotiation. They had never imagined that humans would simply decide to make them extinct. "Ma'am," Admiral Choi continued, "the Galactic Council is requesting an emergency meeting. The other species are concerned about what we've become." President Nam almost smiled. The galaxy's older civilizations had watched the war with growing horror. Atia, they had seen humans develop weapons that could rewrite alien DNA, create AI constructs from the dead, and turn entire worlds into plague zones. Now they were afraid. Tell the Galactic Council that I'll address them in 1 hour. The council chamber on the neutral station at Proxima Centauri was packed with representatives from dozens of species. President Nam recognized many of them. The Karathi Empire, the Zentoran Republic, the Spiral Federation, all civilizations that had existed for thousands of years and considered themselves wise and experienced. All of them looked terrified. Ambassador Li Cha-yung accompanied President Nam to the podium. Li had been a diplomat for 20 years, skilled at finding peaceful solutions to complex problems. But the war had changed her too. Now she specialized in what humans called compliance negotiations. She convinced other species to accept human demands by showing them detailed plans of what would happen if they refused. Honored delegates, President Nam began. I know why you've called this meeting. You're afraid of what humanity has become. You should be. The chamber fell silent. Representatives, who had once looked down on humanity as a young, naive species, now couldn't meet her eyes. The hegemony made a simple calculation. A T decided that humanity was a threat that needed to be eliminated. K, they committed genocide against our colonies and broadcast the torture of our children for entertainment. K told us that mercy was weakness and that civilized behavior was a luxury we couldn't afford. President Nam activated a holographic display showing the current state of former hegemony space, empty worlds, dead systems, and the scattered remains of a once mighty civilization. We listened to their lesson. We learned it well, and now the hegemony no longer exists. The Karathi ambassador, an elderly creature with multiple arms and crystal-like skin, raised one of his hands. President Nam, what the hegemony did was terrible, but your response has been ... excessive. You've committed genocide on a scale that exceeds even their crimes. Have we? President Nam's voice remained calm. The hegemony declared a war of extinction. They said they would hunt down every human in the galaxy and kill us all. We simply proved more efficient at extinction than they were. But the scale of death is exactly what they earned. The hegemony had 47 billion citizens. We've killed every single one of them, except for the 50,000 refugees who are slowly dying in deep space. Do you know why we stopped? At 50,000. The chamber waited because we wanted witnesses. We wanted survivors who could tell the galaxy what happens when someone tries to extinct humanity. Those 50,000 refugees will spend the rest of their short lives explaining to anyone who will listen that attacking humans is suicide. Ambassador Li stepped forward with a data pad. We've prepared what we call the Human Accords. These are the new rules that will govern how the galaxy interacts with humanity. The holographic display changed to show a document with simple terms written in dozens of alien languages. Article 1, Li read aloud, any species that commits genocide against human populations will face complete extinction. Not military defeat, not occupation, extinction. We will hunt down every member of that species and erase them from existence. Article 2, any species that provides support, resources, or safe harbor to genocidal species will face the same fate as those they assist. Article 3, any species that attempts to limit human expansion, control human population growth, or restrict human access to resources will be considered hostile and dealt with accordingly. The Zentoran representative, a tall being with blue skin and large eyes, stood up. This is madness. You're demanding that the entire galaxy submit to human authority. We're not demanding anything, President Nam replied. These aren't negotiations. These are facts. This is how the galaxy works now. Okay, and if we refuse to sign your accords? President Nam gestured to Admiral Choi, who activated another display. This one showed the current deployment of human military forces. Ships that had never existed before the war, weapons that defied traditional understanding of physics, and AI systems that could infiltrate and destroy any known technology. Then you'll learn the same lesson the hegemony learned. We are no longer the species you first encountered. We are no longer bound by your rules of civilized behavior. We are something new, and we are very good at extinction. The meeting lasted 4 hours. In the end, every species represented signed the human accords. They didn't sign because they wanted to. They signed because they had watched humanity erase a 47 billion member civilization in 6 months and realized that resistance was futile. After the last signature was recorded, President Nam returned to her ship. Captain Kim Jun-ho, who had been promoted to admiral after his role in the final assault on Centauri Prime, met her at the airlock. "Ma'am, we've received reports that some outer galaxy species are forming an alliance against us, calling themselves the Free Coalition." "How many ships?" "Approximately 8,000 vessels from 23 different species." President Nam considered this. "Send them a message. Tell them that we have detailed files on all their homeworlds, their population centers, and their military capabilities. Tell them that we have weapons they've never seen and AI constructs based on every species we've encountered. Tell them that we can make them extinct before they fire a single shot. And if they don't believe us, then choose one of their smaller member species and demonstrate complete extinction." Make it educational. So ship departed from the council station. President Nam looked out at the stars. Somewhere in that vast darkness, 50,000 hegemony refugees were struggling to survive on dead worlds with failing technology. They were the only witnesses to what had happened when someone tried to make humanity extinct. The galaxy had new rules now. Rules written in the ashes of 47 billion dead aliens. Rules that said humanity would never again pretend to be something at WASN. Single quotes. The age of human civilization was over. The age of human dominance had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same.